What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It's time for my official preseason top 25, as we are just a little over a week away from week 0, the start of the 2023 college football season. And really, I haven't made a lot of changes since the post-spring top 25. A few teams have moved around a little bit, but the 25 teams that I have actually have not changed. I still got the same 25 teams, and it's pretty clear-cut to me. These are the 25 teams that should be ranked. I think the AP poll and coaches poll maybe got one of the teams that I have ranked, maybe missed one of those teams, but it's pretty much the same 25 teams you got out of the coaches and AP poll. But I do have the order a little bit different on some of these teams. And again, really not a lot has changed in my thoughts on these teams. And I did do a video on what I think the final top 25 will look like based off of my predictions. And it does look a lot different than this preseason top 25 because schedules are different for different teams, and I just see the season playing out, different ways for different teams. But as far as how good the teams are going into the season, this is how I would rank the teams. And we'll start at the bottom. So we've got number 25, Oregon State. A lot of people high on this team. There's a lot to like, but I still do have some question marks, some areas on the defense where I just don't quite see them in that top tier of the Pac-12, along with USC and Oregon, Utah, and Washington. So I still think those 4 teams are a little bit above Oregon State. And I think UCLA is actually a better comparison to Oregon State. We've got Texas Tech at number 24. Very solid on both sides of the ball, return a lot. This should be a good team, and a team that I think has a chance to get to the Big 12 championship. I've got Tulane at number 23. I do think they drop a little bit from where they were last year. They do lose some key players, but still should be very solid. And they're still my pick to be that top group of 5 team that gets to a New Year's Six bowl. So I still like Tulane. UTSA I also like in the American, and also SMU. SMU I think is a team that people are maybe overlooking. They could be pretty good this year as well. We've got Oklahoma at number 22. I think on paper Oklahoma's a top 15 team, but we didn't see that play out last year. We saw the defense really struggle. They've really bolstered their pass rush with some transfers. And I think that area is going to help their defense out. I think the offense will be really good again. So this is a team that has potential to be a lot higher. But again, you kind of have to prove it to me a little bit before I'm willing to rank you. Even if I felt like Oklahoma was going to be in the top 10 this year, I probably wouldn't rank them preseason just because they were as bad as they were last year. So they've got to prove it. And the same thing with Texas A&M. They didn't even go to a bowl game last year. So while I think this team has potential to be a top 15, top 10 team, I'm not going to rank them that high in the preseason because, again, you need to show me a little something first, and that's the case for several of these teams. But if there's going to be, a sleeper team to maybe make a run at even the college football playoff, look at Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a really favorable schedule. If they could maybe get through the Big 12 at 11-1, which is possible, and then win the Big 12 championship, that's a sleeper team. Texas A&M gets Alabama at home. Their road is going to be a lot tougher, but they've got the talent. And, I could see them maybe beating Alabama, but losing to, say, LSU, going 11-1, maybe sneaking into the SEC championship. You never know. But those are 2 teams to watch out for. They're kind of boom or bust type teams. I think they have potential to be really good this year, but also if some of the issues they had last year come back, you could see, both of those teams struggle. So A&M and Oklahoma, risky picks, but that's why I've got them at 21 and 22. Moving on to number 20, North Carolina. Should be really good on offense. Of course, got the bad news about the wide receiver being not eligible this year. And I'm sorry, I do these rosters and I go through all these names, and names just slip my mind sometimes. But a really good player that they got in the transfer portal. And this team I still think is going to be really good offensively. They still got plenty of weapons at wide receiver. Defense, the talent is there. I mean, when you look at them on paper, their defense should have been better than it was last year. So I can't really explain that, but I need to see it. I think this is another team that has potential to be right there in the top 15 or so, but need to prove it to me on that defensive side of the ball. Kansas State at number 19, really a tough team to rank because if you look at their roster talent, it's not really comparable to Texas or Oklahoma or even TCU. But they're just so well coached and they play so hard, and we saw that last year. Saw them win the Big 12 championship. This team's going to be good. I don't know how good, and again, it's hard to figure out where to rank them. I've got them going to the Big 12 championship game this year in my predictions, but I actually think TCU is going to be a better team. That's why I got them at 16. But first we'll get to 18, Wisconsin. Another team. So a lot of these teams we think are going to be good, but they weren't very good last year, and they're going to have to prove it before I'm willing to put them in the top 15 or so. And we're talking about Wisconsin. Again, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, teams that weren't great last year, but when you look at them this year, they have potential to really turn things around. And I think Wisconsin is a really good example of that. A lot of experience back on both sides of the ball. Tanner Mordecai steps in at quarterback, and a new offensive scheme that's going to be something a lot different than what we've seen from Wisconsin. A new coach that has proven himself. So this is a team that has potential to be really, really good this year, but they've got to prove a little something to me before I'm willing to rank them. So like if we're at, this is a team that if we're a few weeks into the season, and I really think if they show me a lot and they look really good, they could be in the top 10 for me. So that wouldn't be too crazy. But right now, I've got them at 18. Ole Miss at 17. Offense is going to be great again. I mean, no doubt about that. Can the defense improve? That'll be the question mark. I think they have a chance to get some better there. I don't think they're going to be a great defense, but still should be pretty solid. And I think, again, the offense will carry this team. Judkins possibly the best running back in the country, and they're loaded on that side of the ball. TCU at 16. So it's a team that the more I look into this team, the more I think they have a chance to have another really good year. Chandler Morris at quarterback. Remember, he won the starting job last year, got injured, wound up not starting, but they have weapons around him. They have a really good offensive line. Offensively, this team I think could be about as good as they were last year. Yes, they lose some playmakers, but they've got plenty of guys. And then defense, they're pretty loaded there as well. So this is going to be, I think, a really good TCU team. And if anything, I'm probably underrating them. And I think everyone is underrating this TCU team. When you really look at their roster, if Chandler Morris can play well for them at quarterback, TCU can win the Big 12 this year. But the pick for everyone, and my pick to win the Big 12 is Texas. I got them at number 15. If you look at them on paper, though, I mean, they blow everyone away in the Big 12. No one's close to them in terms of talent. And we saw that at times last year, but then we saw them really struggle at times. So this is another team that's got to show it to me. If we were just ranking the teams off of how good I thought their roster was, I might have Texas in the top 5. That's how good their roster is. But again, they've got to show it to me. They got to prove it. Let's see what they do against Alabama. I think they're going to beat Alabama, but as of right now, again, I need to see that before I'm willing to rank them and rank them ahead of, say, Alabama. All right, Utah number 14. We know what we're going to get from this team. Injury concerns at quarterback could cost them early in the season. We'll see if Cam Rising is able to play. The number 2 quarterback, he's now gone down with an injury, so that's something to watch. But if they're healthy at quarterback with Cam Rising, this team should be right there in the running in the Pac-12. Notre Dame at number 13. This is going to be a good team, very solid on defense, like they always are. You add Sam Hartman at quarterback. Can the receivers around him step up? I think that's probably the biggest question mark for Notre Dame. Offensive line will be great. Run game will be great. They'll be good. Number 12, Clemson. I think this is a team that it's kind of tough to figure out. How good is Cade Klubnik going to be? We saw him look really good at times last year, and we saw him struggle a little bit at times, in limited playing time. They've got, wide receiver position, another area of concern. They're not bad at wide receiver, but they don't have those dudes like they've had in the past, and I think that's going to be a question mark for them. Can they make some big plays in the passing game? Run game should be good with Maffa and Shipley. And the defense, their starters, really, really good. Loaded at all 3 levels. Depth could be a concern, and that's why I wonder about this team possibly tripping up late in the season if they have a lot of injuries. We'll see. Tennessee at number 11. Offense is going to be great as long as Milton plays well, and I think that he will. Defense, how much can they improve there? That'll be the story for Tennessee. I still think because of their defense, they're not quite able to jump into that playoff conversation, but still a great year. I had them at 10-2. That's my prediction, and I think they will finish in the top 15. All right, let's go to the top 10 now. I've got Oregon at number 10. Bo Nix is back, and I think he's going to have a special season. They've got plenty of talent around him. Offensive line, there's some question marks there as far as experience, but I think they've done a pretty nice job at getting this offensive line in good shape. Defense should be really solid for them. I think Oregon is a real contender in the Pac-12, possibly a playoff contender. I've got Washington just ahead of them. More concerns on defense than Oregon, but maybe less questions on the offensive line and more explosiveness on offense. Yes, even more than Oregon. This team is going to be really, really good offensively. So it's going to come down to the defense. If they wind up surprising and having a really good defense, and the biggest question marks are in the secondary, but if they turn out to have a really good defense, Washington could win a national championship this year. And Oregon could win a national championship this year. All of these teams have potential to be really, really good. I think Penn State's right there in that same conversation. Drew Aller at quarterback, it's going to come down to him. If he plays great, Penn State is going to be a special team this year. They just will. The defense is going to be really good. Best or one of the top running back duos in the country. Some big body, talented wide receivers. Offensive line should be strong. This team's going to be really, really good if they get good quarterback play. Alabama at number 7, quarterback play is going to be a concern for them as well. I don't know who's going to wind up winning that job. The latest we're hearing is Jalen Milroe as the front runner. That concerns me, honestly, if I'm an Alabama fan. I think your ceiling is only so high with him at quarterback, but this team still is going to have plenty of talent around him. The defense is going to be great, so they're still going to be really good. And then Ohio State at number 6, how good is their defense going to be? That'll be a question. Can they improve there? And I think people, their defense last year, it gets overblown a little bit. I don't think they were terrible in defense. Like some people, you look at some of their big games where they struggled, but overall they were pretty solid. If they can improve there, Kyle McCord steps in at quarterback and plays well, which I think he will. They've done it before with first-year quarterbacks. Then Ohio State's going to be right there in the running in the Big 12 or in the Big 10 and possibly in the playoff conversation. But this is my top 5, and I get it. A lot of people think this is crazy to have USC, LSU, Florida State at 3, 4, and 5. I don't have to say much about Georgia and Michigan. Those teams are loaded. I think they're clearly the top 2 teams. I think pretty much everyone agrees with that, at least going into the season. But I've got USC at number 3. I believe that they have you look at the explosiveness that they have on offense. You look at the history of Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and what he's been able to do. You look at the talent that they have on defense. I'm telling you, they have the talent to be a team to win a national championship, to be a really good defense. They didn't really put it together last year. I'm expecting some improvement this year. How much improvement? That'll, of course, be the question mark, and that'll be the determining factor of how good this team's going to be. LSU number 4, offense for them is also absolutely loaded. They are going to be really good. Weapons all over the place. You've got 2 quarterbacks you can lean on. Defensive line, linebackers, really, really strong for them. Biggest question mark is cornerback. That is an area of concern for sure. Can they overcome that, or can they step up at that position? We'll see. And then Florida State at number 5. So I was looking at Florida State and thinking about last year and how maybe I'm overrating this team. You look at their games last year outside of the LSU game. They didn't have any real impressive wins. They struggled at times. Are we really considering this team as a top 5 team, a top 10 team this year? And I think you have to look at the upward trajectory of this team and how they've gotten better and better. You look at everything they have coming back, but also it's what they did in the transfer portal. And they filled pretty much all their holes with veteran guys, all conference caliber players from other conferences or other teams that I believe are going to step in here. And I think Florida State's going to take it up a notch and be even better this year. You look at just the overall improvement of this team and how all these guys are getting better and better, and they've done a really nice job in getting this program headed in the right direction. And then you add in some key players, not just veteran players, but great players, really good veteran players. I think all that's going to come together, and Florida State's going to be really, really good this year. It's kind of a risky pick, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll wind up losing a few games, but I think the Noles are for real, and I've got them at number 5 in my preseason poll. I thought about putting them a little higher, honestly, but again, you gotta prove it to me a little bit. I need to see this team. Let's see what they do against LSU. Now, I did pick LSU to win that game, and that ultimately is why I have LSU at 4 and Florida State at 5. But I could easily see Florida State winning that game. It's definitely one that I've had a hard time with. And if Florida State wins that game, or I'll put it this way, the winner of that game, I believe, is going to go to the college football playoff. The loser, I think, is not going to make the playoffs. So that is a huge game coming up in week 1. But that's my top 25 going into the season. We will do a brand new top 25 every week, of course. I don't just move teams up and down. If you follow me, you know that. So it could be totally different after we get a couple of weeks into the season. Would love to get your thoughts and maybe your top 25. Let me know how you'd rank the teams down in the comments below.